Hello and welcome to this edition of Fulton Justice. I'm your host, Yolanda Lewis, District Court Administrator for the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. This program is dedicated to providing you with resources, information, and a closer look at how our justice system works for you. Today's show is the second of a three-part series on investing in alternatives to incarceration here in Fulton County. During the last episode, we noted that statistics show that the Fulton County Jail has an 85% recidivism rate and is perhaps one of the largest mental health institutions in the state of Georgia. Recently, Governor Nathan Deal signed a set of public safety reforms into law that would make our communities safer and cut corrections costs. Alternative programs are a key component to this effort. This episode will continue our discussion about investing in alternatives to incarceration and how it impacts Fulton County and our citizens. Up next, we'll talk to a representative from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The Office of the District Attorney is charged with the prosecution of all felony violations of state law that occur within Fulton County. The District Attorney prosecutes all indictable offenses, as well as those that may be charged by accusation, and litigates these offenses in both trial and appellate courts here in the state of Georgia. With us today is Fulton County Deputy District Attorney Rewa Collier to discuss 4 new programs that are being utilized in the District Attorney's Office. Welcome, Attorney Collier. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about the programs that you have in your office. We see about 25,000 cases a year in Fulton County, and all of those cases have to come through the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. So tell us how these 4 programs actually impact what you do every day.
Well, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office is currently undergoing a certification process for all of the pretrial intervention programs that our office will use. In the interim, we are currently using 4 12-week pretrial intervention programs. These programs include Intervention Education Program, what we refer to as IEP, and the director is Lola Swaby. Alternative Intervention Methods in Education, we refer to that program as AIM, and the director is Tracy Roll. Second Chance Services, the director is LaQuetta Pearson. And Serving Our Society, we refer to that program as SOS, and the director is Roger Bruce. These programs provides employment preparation and assistance obtaining employment. They also provide GED preparation, substance abuse classes, alcohol abuse classes, anger management, domestic violence education, computer skills, life and social skills, monitoring of community service, and collection of restitution, just to name a few of the services that's provided by these 4 programs.
Okay, and so you talked about a lot of different services that are provided. Why are these programs so critical to what you do every day?
Well, these programs were provided to give first-time offenders of non-violent felonies, and if a drug case, they must be non-sellers. It's geared to give them an opportunity for a second chance. When they complete a pretrial intervention program, the case is placed on the debt docket. After the case is placed on the debt docket, if they do complete the program will send a completion form to the clerk's office. The form is filed with the clerk's office, and when the form is filed, it puts them in a posture that will allow them to apply for expungement to the arresting agency.
All right, so tell us a little bit about how it is that you determine what type of services are needed. We know that so many people come into the criminal justice system, and some of them have substance abuse issues, some of them have parenting issues, some have other issues that kind of materialize as they're in the system. Tell us how you determine what services are needed from these programs.
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's based on the need of the defendants. What our goal is to do is to equip the defendants with tools to choose. Tools to choose an alternative versus the crime path that they are on.
And so what makes them eligible to go into these programs?
As I stated before, first-time nonviolent offenders are offenders that will qualify for a program of this nature, and if a seller, then they will not qualify. So if it's a drug case and they're a seller, then they wouldn't qualify, but if it's a case such as possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana, fraud cases, or other theft cases, theft of auto, things of that sort, deposit account fraud, those are cases that will qualify, and they will have to have no criminal record in order.
So now I want to ask a very important question, because we talk about this all the time. We talk about public safety and how important it is for the court system to be part of protecting our communities. And one of the things you said is that you don't allow sellers in your program. Why?
Well, we do not believe that the program is geared towards sellers. As I stated before, with the first-time nonviolent offenders, what we use in our office, or who would make the determination, would be the prosecutor who is assigned the case. Our office has sentencing guidelines that the prosecutors are following whenever they make this recommendation. And according to the sentencing guidelines that our office has in effect, sellers are not part of the program as us offering services to them.
And so your programs, you mentioned, are about 10 to 12 weeks long.
Yes,
have you had any graduates? And if so, can you talk about how their lives have been changed through your programs?
Sure. Pretrial intervention programs aren't new to Fulton County District Attorney's Office, but these 4 programs that we are using in the interim, they actually are. And we've completed approximately 3 cycles, and I've had the pleasure of attending one of the graduation ceremonies. It was actually the most emotional ceremony that I ever attended. There was not a dry eye in the room. There was actually one of the defendants who told of a story where he was told he had to complete computer training, and he said, "Send me back to jail." I'd rather go back to jail than to complete computer training. After he was introduced to this particular computer training, it changed his life forever, and all the participants thanked us.
That's amazing. You're changing lives, and we appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll speak to the Deputy Court Administrator for Fulton County Superior Court, Robin Rooks, about pretrial programs. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Fulton Justice. Pretrial service programs offer a cost-effective way to assist courts and law enforcement with recidivism. This is done by screening, evaluating, and monitoring defendants who can be safely released back into the community. Pretrial services can be considered as one of the major outgrowths here of alternative programs in Fulton County. Today, we have Deputy Court Administrator of the Fulton County Superior Court, Robin Rooks, who is the Director of the Fulton County Pretrial Services Department, and she's joined by a client of Pretrial Services Program, Mr. Dorico Bird. Welcome to both of you. Ms. Rooks, you've been in pretrial services for about 17 years, 10 years of which you've worked here in Fulton County. Tell us a little bit about the program and how it impacts jail overcrowding here in Fulton County.
Pretrial services affects overcrowding by performing 3 essential functions. We provide information to the judicial decision maker about defendants that have been brought into the jail. We also provide options for the safe release of those individuals, and we also provide an opportunity to supervise and monitor defendants who are released.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit about criteria. What criteria do people have to, or the clients have to meet in order to be placed on pretrial services?
Well, what we're looking at is the defendant's ties to the community and their criminal background. And what we do is when an offender is brought into the Fulton County Jail, we interview them. It's a sit-down interview in the jail to get personal information, employment information, family, community ties. And then we do background checks, and we use national criminal databases to see what the criminal history looks like, if they've ever been on parole or probation, or if they've had any failure to appear for past arrests. Then we verify that information with either their parents, their families, employers, and then we put together a bond assessment that tells that judicial decision maker a little about the defendant. And what's important, it's not necessarily about releasing the defendant, but also we provide information that tells that judicial decision maker that this person needs to be detained in jail because of dangerousness.
And so your relationship with the judge is very close because you are acting somewhat of an information type person for the judge.
We act as a neutral body. And so we give our reports, our bond assessments, to the judge, but also to the DA and the public defender or defense counsel.
So you work with all of the parties involved.
That's correct.
How many people do you generally see in the course of a year that actually come and actually are placed on pretrial?
Well, when we interview everybody that comes into the jail, whether they're felonies or misdemeanors. If they're released to pretrial services, we of course supervise and monitor them, and we can supervise upwards between 3,000 to 4,000 individuals a year.
Wow. And what's your success rate with the folks that are on pretrial?
Our success rate is very good. Right now it's around 97. Nationally, the national standards suggest it should be anywhere from what we have to a 15% unsuccess rate. So when you compare us to Washington, Houston, Miami, the big cities, we're doing very well.
That's a good thing to know. Now you have with you Mr. Dorico Bird. Dorico, you are actually a client on pretrial services. So tell us a little bit about your experience and how this has changed your life.
Well, my experience to pretrial has been wonderful. It helped me and changed me to a better person. Now that I'm out, it gives me back the opportunities that I had before, and to see upon and do more things. Right now, I'm just, enjoying it, the opportunities it gave me, the programs, and everything else that is going well for me.
What kind of programs are you involved in?
Right now, I'm in a parenting and a fatherhood program, and I graduate today from the parenthood. So
well, congratulations.
I learned a lot from it. It helped me real good.
Wonderful. And you have one child?
Yes, a daughter.
A daughter, and she's how old?
8 months.
Okay, and talk to me about how important pretrial has been important to you, but do you think it's important to other people who are coming into the justice system to have a program like this?
Yes, it's very important because you're not in a jail cell. You're out with the opportunity to be out on a bond like you was. So you really, have the freedom like you have. It's just your case is still being worked on while you're having the opportunity. But you have steps that you have to attend to, so as curfew, coming to see them. But it helps a lot.
And so for you, it's helped you with your parenting, with your fatherhood piece, but it's not a get out of jail free card. You're still having to actively work on things to show the judge that you're doing a little bit better than you did before you came in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me, do you think that programs like this really change the way people think about the criminal justice system?
Yes.
You do? Good. Now, Ms. Rooks, Mr. Bird has done really, really well in the program. He's one of your shining stars, but do you see this often?
Yes, we do. And one of the great things about the program is that we offer programs to life skills, for job readiness. We teach people how to get a job. If they don't have a GED, we help them do that. So we're also, in addition to supervising them until their trial date, helping break that cycle of criminality.
Wonderful. Thank you both for being here. Congratulations, Mr. Bird, on your success today.
Thank you.
We'll return right after these messages. Welcome back. The Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice is a multifaceted agency that serves the state's youthful offenders up to the age of 21. Each day at 27 facilities and 92 court services offices throughout the state, more than 4,000 employees work diligently to effect justice and reshape the lives of young people. Today we have with us Ms. Margaret Cawood, who is the Northwest Regional Administrator with the Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice. She's responsible for 33 counties, which includes Fulton. Welcome to the show, Ms. Cawood. How are you today?
I'm good.
Thank you for being here. Now talk to us a little bit about what the Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice is responsible for.
Okay. We are the state government public safety branch that serves the juvenile justice offenders, and our mission is to protect and serve the citizens of Georgia by holding youthful offenders accountable for their actions through provision of services and sanctions in an appropriate setting, and then supporting them in their community to be productive and law-abiding citizens.
And so you do a lot of work throughout the state, and of course you have 33 counties that you're responsible for. How is Fulton different from the rest of the state of Georgia?
It's big.
Definitely.
High population, which means high numbers for us.
And talk to us a little bit about collaborative services that you provide to Fulton County.
Okay, with Fulton County Juvenile Court, our major collaboration is around detention and alternatives to detention, because Fulton County is responsible for the court process. And what we provide is 2 case expediters who provide services of linking to alternatives to detention for younger offenders and less serious offenders. And these would be like shelter placements, wraparound services, electronic monitor. And we've provided about over 300 services since January. And then for the more serious offenders, that would be the detention, and those are those charged with serious offenses and repeat offenders. And we have about 115 in detention today from Fulton County.
Wow, that's a lot of young people. Now, you talked about serious offenses. What do you mean by serious offenses? Because sometimes they differ from what we mean in regards to adult offenses.
Well, for the most part, they are very similar in that the harm to the victim with physical aggression, and then our concern is the risk of repeat offenders, and then that's what we're concerned about, is assuring the safety for the public as well as getting the youth the services they need to hopefully keep them from reoffending.
Right, and so you have this mildred of services. You have residential and non-residential services, correct? So what type of non-residential services do you provide?
Well, for those youth that are either returning to the community, transitioning back, that have had treatment services, or those that have less serious needs, we're able to serve them in the community with wraparound services or treatment services in the home and community. And we have funded about 40 youth since January in those type services. And we also make referrals and work very closely in collaboration with Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and any other service providers on linking to supports and services for youth.
And when you talk about behavioral health, is it that you find that some of the individuals that are actually in your system and in your programs have behavioral type problems? And talk to us a little bit about what type of things you see in that area.
Well, we see a lot of youth with high mental health needs, untreated needs, whether it's depression. We work closely with Department of Family and Children's Services. We do see a lot of children that come from their system, cross over into our system, have post-traumatic stress. We see sexually exploited, commercially exploited young people. And then we also see children that were victims themselves and now are offending or reoffending.
That's really important to note, because I think sometimes when you talk about the Department of Juvenile Justice and you talk about young people being offenders, you just assume that they're always the person offending. But true enough, you see people these children who have actually had crimes committed against them that in some way have them act out. And so it's very important to know that. And so let's talk about specific services. All children are not the same. All of the folks that come into your program will not be the same. How do you determine what specific services are needed for young people?
Well, in Fulton County, Juvenile Court provides the probation services, and then Department of Juvenile Justice provides services for committed youth, and that's where their offenses are so serious the juvenile court judge makes the decision to commit them to our department, which means we can make the decision to physically place them in an environment we think is best for both the public and for them. And what we do is we collect all of the information we can on them: legal history, social history, history, psychological, any other type of treatment history, and then we do a comprehensive risk and needs assessment where we interview the child, we interview the caregiver, and then in all of that information we're able to determine their risk level, risk of reoffending, and then their needs level, and then based upon that we determine what level of service, whether they can be served in the community and non-residential or whether they need residential. And then youth with very, very serious offenses would go to our Youth Development Center, which are the long-term facilities that they may be there from 6 months to 5 years, just depending upon their sentence.
And so you actually, when a child is committed to the Department of Juvenile Justice, they can be with you for 5 years?
They can, for the designated felons.
And so during that time, I assume that is considered incarceration or detention. What type of services, you touched on it briefly, but when they're there, is there substance abuse treatment there in residence, or how does that work?
Well, absolutely, and it depends on where they're placed. If their highest need is substance abuse or mental health type treatment, they would go to a specific substance abuse treatment program or treatment program. If their safety issues means they need to be in a secure facility, then our youth development centers, we have substance abuse treatment, we have sex offender treatment, as well as education and occupational, because our goal is that they would return to the community with skills and to enable them to be able to be successful.
And this is a very sensitive question that I just want to ask you. I know that when you see young people, they're actually in the system, but can you talk about whether, when you do the histories, their family background, do you see instances where parents are already in the system and this is much of a cycle? Yes,
we do. We do see that. And I think what we would say is that we see families that are very vulnerable family systems and supports, and that has led up to this youth not having the structure and supervision and support that has got them in the situation of committing crimes and being charged.
You do such important work. We really appreciate everything that you do. Ms. Cawood, thank you for joining us today. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Fulton Justice. We hope our guests today have provided some insight on the ongoing and new alternative sentencing programs that are available to citizens here in Fulton County. For more information on the Fulton County Superior Court, visit our website at www.fultoncourt.org or call our office at 404-612-4518. Thank you to all of our guests for joining us today, and thank you for joining us on this edition of Fulton Justice. We'll see you next time.